Welcome in, everybody. Cole Cubelic, Simone Eli joining you for another edition of Head to Head as we talk Auburn football. The final 3 weeks of the college football regular season are here. Auburn coming off of the bye week after falling to Vanderbilt. UL-Monroe up next there on the Plains. We're going to break everything down, Tigers and the Warhawks. Let's go head to head. Welcome in, everybody. Happy to be with you again this week. Cole and Simone joining you as we chat all things Auburn football. Cole, let's go back a couple of weeks. Of course, Auburn coming off of the bye. When you think back to the Vanderbilt game there at Jordan-Hare Stadium, not exactly one that Tiger fans probably want to remember at this point. We'll look ahead to ULM in just a minute, but what comes to mind when you think about that Vanderbilt loss?
Just a game that you had an opportunity to be successful in again and just couldn't find a way to get it done late. But also, I think a game that you played the exact style football game that Vanderbilt wanted. That was the fight style that they wanted to go into and take. I guarantee you that Clark Lee was telling that team all week, just be down 10, be down 3, be down 7 in the fourth. We got them right where we want them. Or give us a 3-point lead in the fourth and we'll take it. And then they go do what they do and kind of finish games off. So it was, I know a lot of folks, a lot of Auburn fans looked at that game and said, oh, it was there. We had it. It was right in front of us. But I think is a game like that that's going that direction in that tempo, that a team like Vanderbilt, their confidence just kind of grew and grew and grew as that got later in the game, whereas most Auburn players probably look around saying, here we go again. And what's going to happen this time? And how are we going to drop this one? And that confidence probably began to plummet. So not the style fight that Auburn wanted. And the exact style that Vanderbilt wanted, and they made more plays late at the end of the day. You had a long drive to essentially put it away when you had a chance to get another stop and maybe steal it back. And then obviously a late penalty. No football game is decided by one play, but there were a couple late in that game that really stole the chance of you to be able to go get that win at home.
Yeah, I remember, I know Hugh Freeze had mentioned in his early press conference this week that there were some frustrating moments, some calls that he felt like either weren't called or could have been called. And like you mentioned, you can't pinpoint just one play that cost a team a game necessarily. But when you think about Auburn going into the bye week, what do you think maybe the message was for this program as they now step outside of SEC play, welcome in a Louisiana-Monroe team that started the season really, really hot, has taken their lumps a little bit as of late, in terms of maybe the opportunity that is here. And I know that we'll talk as well about the injury to Peyton Thorne and kind of what that looks like potentially for this team. But where do you think you hit the reset button? What does this bye week look like if you're inside that Auburn locker room?
Well, you get healthy, number one, and you got a couple of guys that have been banged up and been playing a lot of football that probably need a little bit of a rest, mentally need a break, get away from it. And then I think, too, you go have some competition. You let guys compete for playing time, not even starting spots, but just to get more reps in a game. And you use some of that time to put your team in situations to find out who you can rely on, who's going to be dependable in those situations, who can go out there and give you 10 snaps, 20 snaps a game, and then add some depth down the stretch. And maybe different players who can help you in different ways, that can do different things that you've seen glimpses of. Now get them a couple more reps doing that, and they can help your football team down the last couple of weeks of the season. So a couple of goals still in sight for this team. Obviously, it's going to take a lot to win the last 3, but you can still become bowl eligible, and that's got to be the first thing that's out there. But none of that takes place if you don't handle Louisiana-Monroe Saturday morning.
When you talk about the injury to Peyton Thorne, I know that he was dealing with a shoulder injury, and I think that he was limited, if at all, at practice this week. I know Hugh Freeze isn't the type of guy that's going to show his hand too much in terms of game pressers and kind of previewing teams. He did mention that backups received a bulk of the snaps there in practice throughout this week. What do you know about that situation? How do you think it impacts this team going into Monroe and then maybe into Texas A&M, into Alabama as well, because Coach Freeze mentioned having to look a little bit of big picture as well.
And there are different mindsets with this. There are certain people that'll say, okay, the postseason, yes, a bowl game, but the postseason that you maybe hoped and dreamed for is gone. There's no real shot at the playoff, SEC championship game. Just go young, use the bye week to get guys ready and start playing them. There are other folks that'll say, well, let's throw in the towel on the season. You stay with the guys that give you the best opportunity to win. I still think Peyton Thorne is that quarterback. The good news there is if he's dinged up and wasn't able to practice a whole lot, he knows the system, he knows the plays. I don't think that he needs to necessarily be out there to be caught up on what they're going to run against Louisiana-Monroe. Sure. But it is a great opportunity to give guys more snaps and potentially be able to run them out there and play. I don't know if Hugh Freeze ultimately feels very confident in doing that. We saw how that happened the last time out. And again, as you and I have stated, Simone, I don't know if the players around whoever is the quarterback are good enough to just go allow someone who's not ready to make plays at a high level be the guy. With the way everything else is around the quarterback situation at Auburn right now, you need a lot of players to play well, specifically up front on that offensive line first and foremost. They've had their bumps throughout the course of the season. Receivers are better, but probably not collectively as good as we thought it was going to be. And yeah, the running backs have been great, but if the offensive line's not allowing that to go, it's a little bit of a moot point. So I think you need people to help whoever the quarterback is. And if those guys aren't ready to step their games up, it's not going to really matter.
I know that I think Auburn is a 24-point favorite in this game. And there was a time where I think we had talked about Louisiana-Monroe being just a one-loss team to Texas. Now they've lost 3 straight. They're coached by a guy who has a lot of ties to the state of Alabama, and Brian Vincent has been at UAB, and of course a former high school football coach in this state as well. You have to imagine that they're going to be motivated and fired up coming into this game, looking for bowl eligibility in their own right, sitting at 5-4 and three straight losses. When you look at just this game specifically, and then we'll kind of turn the page to A&M and Alabama and the Iron Bowl, what are you going to keep an eye on? Where's your focus? Where are your eyes, I guess, when you're watching this game? What you hope to see from this Auburn Tigers team, not only in the win column, but also in an improvement level going into the final 2 weeks?
Well, I think the first thing is going to be the offensive line up front, the tight end group for Auburn, because this Louisiana-Monroe defensive front seven, they will attack. They're aggressive. They move. They'll show different looks. They have different pressures that they're going to run on a regular basis. I've watched a couple of their games. I've studied some film on them, and they don't hold back. And they play in a very aggressive style of defense just individually. Guys that like to hit, like contact, don't back away from it, and like to try to knife through and be able to make plays in the backfield. If you have an offensive line that's not playing well, it's a problem. And then on the flip side of that, I think there are opportunities there for Auburn defensively to be able to cause some problems. Most likely going to be playing a freshman quarterback. Ahmad Hardy's a really good tailback and one that Auburn has to be careful of, not to let him get out in space and get going. But that's where I think up front with Keldrick Falk and the emergence of a couple other players defensively, that Auburn should be able to have success on that side of the ball. My biggest questions, though, come when Auburn has the football and how they're going to manage a front seven that loves to attack and plays fast.
Don't always want to look past the opponent that obviously is upcoming for Auburn, but when you do look ahead to this Texas A&M team who is sitting right there kind of on the cusp of being in the playoff picture, still very much alive in a chance of being in the SEC championship game at just one loss in the conference, everything to lose, whereas Auburn will be playing with kind of that, hey, nothing to lose type mentality. What type of opportunity can these next 2 games at Jordan-Hare Stadium present for Auburn as you go into the Iron Bowl and then as you go into the offseason as well? Not just whether it can be for bowl eligibility, but just in terms of momentum, maybe recruiting, and kind of just what Hugh Freeze's legacy, so to speak, will be as the head coach at Auburn.
I just think you need positive vibes in general, whether it's like you said, going into the offseason, Simone, or going towards the Texas A&M game, or probably around the facility, to be honest with you.
Yep.
Guys are probably walking around sick of losing. I've been on a team that won 3 games. It's not fun going over there every day. It's not fun being around guys. It can force you to want to remove yourself from football, which is odd for someone that puts as much time and effort in as these players do this day and age. So I just think to sort of boost morale in general across the entire platform, be it in the stadium, on the practice field, in the facility, in the weight room, just around one another, you need a little bit of belief. It's like we talked about a couple of weeks ago before that Kentucky game. If you can get one, it will probably lead to some more. And we've seen the effort be better. We've seen some guys improve. But this is a team that they don't feel like they have a good understanding of how to play good football together. There are individuals that do things well. There are guys that run well, catch well, run the ball well. There are guys that tackle well. But collectively, the understanding of what it takes as a team to win football doesn't seem to be there. And I don't put the majority on those individuals for that. But you do have to find that somehow, some way. And usually winning is the only thing that can correct it and get it going. So you could take this and then say, okay, we played an aggressive front with some good defensive linemen. Now we're going to go play one of the better defensive lines we'll play all year. But if we can offset that, there are some opportunities to be able to go out and win this game. And then obviously we know what the last game of the year means. So
Yep.
You want to close strong. You want to finish strong always. Individual play, every rep, every series, every half, every game. You want to finish strong. And so you want to finish your season strong because that's going to be a lot of the ways that people remember you.
Yep. No question about that, Cole, for sure. Especially when you think about the seniors in this group, and as Hugh Freeze looks ahead to year 3 as well. When you think about what this game will look like on the scoreboard there on Saturday, if you had to throw out a prediction, do you think 24 points is generous for Auburn? Do you think that's about right where it needs to be? What do you think?
I think it might be a little bit generous because of what you brought up earlier in that quarterback situation. If it is one of the younger quarterbacks that has to go, I would just have to anticipate we'll see a few mistakes at some point, mainly because you're going to get different looks up front. You're probably going to have a couple missed assignments up there. He'll probably try and redirect some protections that won't be where they need to be or what they need to be.
Sure.
You anticipate that's going to happen. But all in all, I think Auburn will be fine in the game. I think it'll be a heavy dose of Jarquez Hunter. I think you try to go out there, run the football. You try to assert your will defensively up front. If that means showing extra players in the box, it means bringing extra players to try and rattle a younger quarterback, then you do that. I'll probably go like 35-24. I think Auburn gets the win. Probably be a little more comfortable than it looks, but it's not going to be one that I think is just flat dominant from start to finish.
Yeah, I like it too. I agree. I think 24 points is certainly generous, but we will see as Auburn navigates a potential injury to Peyton Thorne. How will that impact who is under center there on Saturday? It'll be 11:45 a.m. kickoff between Auburn and ULM as they look to pick up a very important win as it pertains to the last 2 weeks of the season and momentum as they finish out SEC play against Texas A&M and then at Alabama. This has been Head to Head for Cole Cubelic. I'm Simone Eli. We will see you next week for Texas A&M.
Brought to you by Alabama Beef Farmers and Ranchers.